It's an absolutely insane day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast has just issued an emergency banning ahead of Modern Horizons 3 release, which is something that rarely ever happens with this game. On top of that, they have done something absolutely awesome with secret layers.
Magic.
I am a wizard!
History. The Magic Historian.
My bones hurt. Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for another wonderful installment of Mega Magic News. We've got an emergency banning. We've got the new nuttiness with secret layers and a little bit of extra news too. But before we dive into that, just want to address my last video and how it had some serious sound issues somewhere around the middle. So I believe I've got those problems all ironed out and there's no more wrinkles, but I need you guys to have a good listen and let me know if the sound quality is back where it needs to be. And my thanks to those of you who pointed out the problems. Sorry that you had to deal with that. I know it is pretty annoying. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the news. We'll start with the biggest news item, which is obviously the emergency banning, or if you like another term for it, you can also call it a pre-banning. Both those terms were used in the announcement for this banning, but I find that emergency banning is a little more accurate in terms of what's going on, where they go, whoa, okay, we actually need to get rid of this before you can even play with it. So, what are we talking about? We're talking specifically about the Pauper format. What card are we talking about? The one you can see on the screen right now, Cranial Ram. 1 red and 1 black for an artifact equipment that has Living Weapon, which is admittedly a very cool ability that says when the equipment comes into play, you create a 0/0 black Phyrexian Germ creature token, then attach this to it. So it's cool on the level that it's a Phyrexian, and it's cool that you get a creature along with your equipment, so it's good to go right away. So the equipment works like this. Equipped creature gets +X+1, where X is the number of artifacts you control. And that +1 toughness is very important. Otherwise, that 0/0 germ would immediately go to the graveyard, making the living weapon part of this incredibly confusing. So this equips for 2 mana. People who have been around for a long time will say, yo, this is essentially like a cranial plating. And you're absolutely right. And cranial plating is already banned in Pauper. Now, from a flavor perspective, this card is also insane. You look at it, it's a piece of equipment, but there's a living germ inside it, Phyrexian essence, essentially. And so if you were some creature that's been summoned up by a planeswalker and he summons up this gross little skittering bug, I mean, look at that artwork. It is disgusting. And then that germ kicks it. Oh, it's not alive anymore. Time to repurpose this equipment. Read the flavor text. It says, to ensure proper fit, the mandibles can be inserted directly into the ears. So all of a sudden, you're getting this thing jammed on your head. Boom! Pinchers in the ears. That's just really disgusting and some really fun flavor as well. I will win at any cost. I don't care how many bugs I gotta jam into you, son. So this card is getting the ban for a couple of different reasons. Basically, it's all laid out in this big long article, but I'm gonna break it down for you. So, this card is incredibly similar to Cranial Plating, obviously, and All That Glitters. And if you didn't know, All That Glitters just recently got banned in Pauper because it's an absolute powerhouse. Pauper is a very weak format overall compared to the other formats in Magic. There are a ton of awesome commons in Magic, and Pauper is not a bad format, but it is by necessity a lower power level format. And cards like Cranial Ram being printed at common are printed at that level specifically so that they can work in Modern Horizons 3 limited environments, right? This is just meant to be like draft and sealed filler in a way, but the power level of commons and uncommons in Modern Horizons 3 is by necessity a higher level to go along with the crazier, swingier nature of the set. So you have a situation where they can't really afford to let this run rampant. The Pauper Rules Committee, which is a different body than the people who make the rulings for like you've got Commander and Pauper, which are separate entities that have different groups that make decisions for them, as opposed to Wizards of the Coast directly. But the committee does for Pauper actually have straight up Wizards employees on it, so it feels like it's a little more connected than the Commander Rules Committee to Wizards of the Coast. But regardless, they really slipped up in the past. There was the one blue enchantment that for 3 mana would shut down one of your opponent's creatures and turn them into the Monarch at the same time, right? So you're basically double card drawing. And that card was allowed to run rampant for months before they shut it down. So they decided this time around they needed to be really, really proactive with this, because there's a number of problems with letting this run rampant in Pauper. One of them is the fact that there is already a killer red-black deck, and it's specifically affinity based, so it's already loaded down with artifacts. So you put this in there, it's just a natural fit. It's more artifact action, and in one way it's even worse than cranial plating, because cranial plating, sure, you can equip it at instant speed, right? But the thing about that is it doesn't come along with a body. Specifically in the banning, they quoted that there is net negative tempo with this card. If you don't know what that means, it means that this equipment brings its own creature with it, which means it's ready to go straight out of the gates. You don't have to put it out and then sacrifice some more tempo getting it onto a creature, because presumably you're going to have a bunch of artifacts out. Specifically, Affinity benefits very much from the artifact lands that exist inside of the Modern Horizons action, right? We got those previously. I believe it was Modern Horizons 2 that introduced all the bridges where you literally have artifact lands that tap for 2 different colors. So they talked about how they had actually considered doing away with the artifact lands instead, and I feel like it's only a matter of time eventually before the artifact lands have to kind of get the boot, because there's just too much power consolidated with artifacts. I mean, you look at this, you look at Cranial Ram, it's a red-black artifact, right? It's keyed in, you have to be playing 2 specific colors to cast it, but they still feel the need to ban it. So the bridges, as far as I'm concerned, are only going to last in Pauper for so long before they go, bro, this is causing a big problem. On top of that, there's another affinity card that's actually in Modern Horizons 3, specifically a common called Refurbished Familiar, that is also basically you put them together and you're going to have even more ramp up for Grixis Affinity. And so they basically said, look, people can combat this. They could put Hydro Blast, Blue Elemental Blast, stuff like that into their decks to deal with it. But they bring up the very rightful point that if everybody has to change their decks to deal with a new problem, that is warping the meta too much. And that's not what you want to have happening, right? And that is absolutely correct. So they did not want to give this any room to breathe at all. They did state that there is like a negative context around doing emergency bannings. First of all, it's never fun to just tell people, yo, you can't use cards. That also leads to people thinking, hey, wait a minute, maybe it wouldn't have been that bad. You guys don't know what you're talking about. And on the other side of the coin, it makes people think that they're going to pre-ban other cards, which can lead either to a loss of faith in the format, where people are like, well, I don't even want to get the new stuff because they're going to just turn around and ban the stuff, or it leads to people demanding cards get pre-banned. There's all these new cards that come out and people go, that's too busted, it's gotta go. That's too busted, it's gotta go. So they don't really want to deal with all of that going on, which makes sense. But there's multiple tournaments that are of a large level for Pauper that are coming up very, very soon. So it would create a situation where, let's say they allow it to be legal, all of a sudden you see it in usage. So the tournaments that we have here, June 15th is the Creator Showdown. This is happening on MTGO, and it has a $5,000 prize pool. So there's actual full-on money on the line, which means people are going to be coming hard. So that means you're going to have the best decks kicking it. Cranial Ram would absolutely make an appearance. So you have this special creator showcase that's going, check out all the new stuff that we can do. It's meant to show off Modern Horizons 3. That's the point of it, right? So if it turns around and goes, check out this awesome card from Modern Horizons 3, Oh, by the way, a week later, they ban it. So did you build your decks based on it? Well, now you're hosed. Also, this lets people test ahead of time knowing that the cranial ram won't be a part of it. If they waited right up until the day of the event and dropped it on people, you don't have the ability to test out different decks with other Modern Horizons 3 cards, and that would obviously mean that not as many Modern Horizons 3 cards are being showcased too. So it would defeat the purpose of that. But that's not the only event that's going on, right? There's a number of big Pauper events that are happening soon. Another one that's coming up is Paupergeddon, and that event can get almost up to like 1,000 people in some cases. 800 might have been the most they have. I'm not 100% sure on that, but the numbers are really high for Pauper events. That's a lot of people to have at any Magic tournament, and it really is a testament to the fact that Pauper has done a good job of making inroads. And I mean, the fact that they have their own separate committee for the rules and whatever. There was a time where Pauper was a format most people didn't even know about, and it is good to see it being governed in a way where they're going, okay, we don't want people to have false expectations of what the format will be. We don't want the format to get warped around this card. So they're going ahead and giving it the boot. Now, this doesn't mean that there are no other cards in Modern Horizons 3 on the common level that might need to get kicked away, but they don't have any other that are on their radar right now. Specifically, the discussion was surrounding the artifact lands and their role in Pauper. So, as far as I'm concerned, this seems like a reasonable ban to be making. If you've never played against cranial plating and affinity style decks, they are quite strong, and Magic's card pool is big enough that there's a ton of that stuff in Pauper as well, right? So, that sums up the banning. We also have the Secret Lair craziness, the bonus cards that I want to talk about. But before we do that, a quick note that there is an IGN live event that's going on. And if you happen to be going to this event that you on the specific, June 8th, then you can get free tickets to a special Magic the Gathering reveal, right? Where they're showing off Assassin's Creed cards. Most of us are just going to have to see that stuff online, but if you happen to be in the part of the world where the IGN live event is happening in America, then you can use the promo code MTG at IGN to get yourself into that for free, which is a neat little thing to know, and it's literally happening like 2-3 days from now, so I figured I would get the word out. Now, let's talk about the Secret Lair bonus cards. The first one I'm going to lay on you is absolutely disappointing. This is Fierce Empath Extended Border. It's a fine card, right? 3 mana for a 1/1 that lets you search up a 6 casting cost dude is fine. Flavor text says here, kitty, 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 whatever. It's got some solid artwork. It's not too bad as far as little Gormpy tutors go, but as a Secret Lair bonus card, it's very underwhelming. And when you see the other Secret Lair bonus cards that you could end up getting, you'll see why people are super unhappy with this. This one specifically came from the Poker Faces Secret Lair, and actually on that note, I forgot to mention, the Secret Lair Poker Face Secret Lair. Why did I say Secret Lair twice? It doesn't matter. So, what's going on with that? Well, there are reports that people are getting the wrong card. So they're getting 2 of 1 copy of a card, they'll be missing another card. It's almost like you're getting dealt out a random hand of poker cards. So bear in mind, there are quality issues in that regard. But let's talk about the other bonus card that you could get from the Poker Secret Lair, because it's epic. This is Elesh Norn, and when I heard, Elesh Norn is going to be a part of this poker thing, I'm like, are they going to do her Thunder Junction style? Are they going to give her a cowboy hat? And they did, but in a way I never would have expected. Instead of an actual cowboy hat, she's wearing a cowboy as a hat, which is unexpected and fun. I have to admit that the energy of this card is absolutely incredible. When you look at the overall flavor of it, this looks like Elesh Norn went like full-on battering ram style, like leaned forward and jammed this dude with her gigantic spearhead, get some, and then lifted him up with her powerful neck, and he's just like, duh, done, and his hat's falling off. Like, it's game over for him. I don't know if it's supposed to be like that. I don't know if this is supposed to be he was thrown on top of her in a barroom brawl, but it looks from the artwork, if you look in the text box down at the bottom, It looks like there's somebody laying at her feet as well. But to me, this gives the energy of Elish Norn is actually bringing battle. Because she's always just shown in poses like regal leadership, not actually engaging with anybody. This is the only time you can see her throwing down. And I really love the idea of her just ramming somebody and lifting them up on top of her head like, you want some, bro? And it goes with the flavor text talking about how even her most adamant foe will call her mother. It's so, like, that is so epic. And speaking of epic, let's take a look at this secret Hatsune Miku bonus layer card, which is Snapcaster. This is a reskinned Snapcaster mage. This has made the people who missed out on the Miku layer even more salty. So there are different variations. In the last video, I showed you the Elvish Mystic bonus card that you can get. Well, this is the ultra rare one that doesn't come in most of the layers. Now, what's really interesting about this is the Miku secret layers are meant to be seasonal. So we already got the springtime layer, but when you look at the artwork on this one, she has a decidedly wintertime vibe to it, right? It's got the cold blue and whites to it. So basically with the Miku stuff in the 4 different layers, it might turn out that they have a pool of different ultra rare bonus cards. So we might see something other than Snapcaster as well. They may have, for each of the 4 seasons, a special bonus Miku card, and they might be mixed about in different Miku layers. If you didn't hear about it, the Hatsune Miku secret layers are the hottest seller from the last super drop, and it's not even close. The first Miku layer sold out in like an hour. There's so many people like, bro, I just went to take a nap or have lunch and I missed it. What's the deal? So you got a bunch of people salty about that. 1 hour it took to sell out. Meanwhile, every other secret layer didn't sell out with the exception of the Thunder Junction Showcase Foil Edition only, and it took them over 3 weeks to sell that one out. So you have this situation where Hatsune Miku is a massively hot property, and now they've added in ultra super duper mega bonus cards like Snapcaster. And yes, I am aware that Snapcaster has dropped down the rankings in terms of like ultra super hot cards, but that doesn't change the fact that Snapcaster is a very strong card, and this is a very desirable version of it. Look at the artwork. It's got a lot to recommend it. I really enjoy the fact that she's got this big glass flask with some kind of unknown potion. Is this her brewing up something, or is this her restoring something that's already been used to use again? Either way, it's got some really, really solid artwork. And that wraps up all of the news that I have to talk about today. Thanks for coming by. Like I said at the beginning of the video, let me know if the sound quality has improved. A big shout out to all of my patrons for supporting my channel. And I will see you all, my friends, in the next video.